Hi Student Success, this is your video for your Chapter 12 lecture. So for Chapter 12, I mostly just rely on the textbook itself. So I'm going to go ahead and jump right in. So Chapter 12 is all about like kind of career services, taking control of your future type things. We're going to walk through and we're also going to combine it with some information on career services. So the first bit of Chapter 12, just like every other chapter, starts with like a self-assessment, and it's focusing on like your career path and those things that you're going to do to get ready to get into your career or to change careers or whatever that might look like for your specific point in your life. Your resume, your kind of transferable skills, your interviews, all of that. Where do you want to go with all the information, like kind of goals, and then how this chapter is going to help you. So this whole chapter, as I said, is going to talk about like the job market and career and things of that nature. So honestly, I think since even this textbook was written, the job market in our country has changed so much. COVID has really changed the landscape of a lot of careers. We have seen that with the amount of people who went home to work during COVID and then did not have to go back because the needs of different clientele and companies have changed, and we don't have to be in a physical location any longer. And for other things, we found out we really need those people right there in person. So a lot of the landscape has changed, and a lot of availability and employment and all of that has also been altered. And so even if we thought we knew kind of what our career might look like, the last couple of years has really made some big changes with the employment market. So just knowing about those changes, especially in light of COVID in the last couple of years, is really helpful. But knowing about your career in general and the qualifications and the skills is all factors that are going to help you as you navigate closer and closer to graduation and getting into your career field. So this first section talks about just knowing, who you are and kind of what are your dreams. And this is like a little exercise if you wanted to do this, like your dreams for the future, why they're important for you, kind of focusing in and setting your priorities, looking at what is important to you and really taking stock of that. So this first kind of section of the chapter is really just thinking about what are your life goals, what are your dreams, how are you going to make them into reality, and just kind of thinking through that process. And that's just a self-practice. If you want to do that little exercise, that's totally up to you. All right, so as I've said in previous lecture videos, every chapter is going to cover different areas of the concepts, and some of them will relate to some students more than others. And so this first section is probably going to really hit better with students who are maybe still high school students, or you're in your first year and you're not 100% declared on what you're going into. So if you already know what you're going into, you're probably not at the stage. You're not exploring your career any longer. So this section does talk about the difference between a job and a career, right? Hopefully we already know the difference. Like a job, you can like your job for sure, but it's not necessarily your passion. It's not something that you have thought a lot about or trained for or gone to a school for. A career, however, is something that you have hopefully a little bit more passion for. You're achieving a certain goal. You've invested a lot of time and energy into being informed on this career choice. And so maybe you're not 100% sure what you want to do. So here are the different kind of ways to help get you closer. So this talks about like knowing just who are you, and that might mean looking at your personality. And so this is going to be a big part of what you're going to see some assignments connected to this in this class with career exploration. So John Holland, he has this Holland inventory, and there are usually 6 categories of people. There are different kind of theories on this, but if you look at these, like realistic, investigative, artistic, social, enterprising, and conventional, most of the time we can find ourselves in maybe 2 or 3 of these more so than the other. So kind of take a look and see, what is your personality style? And the reason this is important in career exploration is because if you go into a field that does not match your personality, there's a greater chance of career dissatisfaction. And so if you can align your personality with your career, the career satisfaction rate is going to be a little bit higher for you. So knowing your personality is helpful. Also just knowing kind of the type of jobs that align with those personalities are key. And we will talk about this with the assignments associated with this chapter as well. So after you kind of know a little bit about yourself, you've taken stock of your personality, your goals, what does that do? What's out there? What kind of information do you have? So one of the sites, and I know it's like linked right here. Sometimes it works from there and sometimes it doesn't. There we go. So I like to go to it like directly. The BLS.gov site right here. And then up in the upper right hand corner, you can search, let's say physical therapy happens to be there, search your career field. So I'm just going to search physical therapy for this. And then you can look through and see what connects closest. Maybe you want to do like a physical therapy assistant, PTA. So I'm going to click there. And this brings you to this nice, kind of easy to navigate site where it's going to walk you through what does a PTA do, like a real quick snapshot. Here's their median pay, how much education you have to have, the job outlook, and then each of these tabs goes a little bit more into detail. So what can you expect to do in this position? You know, what are your responsibilities? Where could you possibly work? So it's going to give you a breakdown of where most PTAs work, what education, certification, licensure exams, qualities, all those things do you need? How much can you expect to make? You know, the median pay all the way up through, you know, like different like levels that you might expect to make. Job outlook. Here's a good one because what you hopefully don't want to see is a downward trend or a really small percent. So if you are seeing larger percents and it's changing over the years and they need more, like it says this is PTA, it's expected to grow 32%. That's a huge growth. So PTA is going to be in high need from 2020 to 2030. So we're kind of already in that need right there. So that's a good thing to know ahead of time. If you are going into a field that has like a 2% change, that doesn't necessarily mean, hey, get out of that field. It means just be aware that it's going to be competitive and that you're going to have to really maybe relocate or just really aggressively attack that job search. There's a link for state and area data if you needed to click in to get there. Some similar occupations connected to PTA, and then where you could go for more info. This is one site that you could go to. Another one I direct students to is the online. This one also has huge amount of information. I'm going to type in physical therapy again, just because to keep it like consistent. But this is anything. You search for anything, any occupation up there. This one has a lot of information. You can see sometimes it's not quite as friendly, I think, as the BLS, but still lots of data here. And there's even more you can kind of pull down, and it goes through like education and skills and abilities and all of these different things that are associated with, in this case, physical therapy assistant. And you can scroll through again, like lots of information in there. Great resource for it. I'm going to show you one other place. On our Stark State homepage, if you scroll all the way down and you go to Career Coach, you eventually are going to have to take this career assessment. But for right now, I'm going to go to Browse Careers. And I'm just going to type in physical therapy. It's going to bring me to my physical therapy assistant. And I'm going to click on that. And this is connected to the college. So if I wanted to scroll down and go to like the available programs, this is what I want to do. Where is this located inside the college? So I can click on that and it's going to take me to the program info specifically if I wanted to get that information. It's also going to be able to tell me along here the overview, like how much again am I going to make in this field, how many openings are in this region. I can expand this region. Right now it's only 10 miles. Let's say I don't care if I move 50 miles away, then it opens it up quite a bit. It's going to give me the tasks and responsibilities, the education level most people have when they go into this field, how much I can expect to make all the way from kind of like entry all the way through maybe the high end. Some people that have posted, some actual companies in the area that have posted, and you can see a breakdown of that. The projection, again, this looks great because it's trending upward. Some titles that you might be referred to in that field, similar careers, and then something I think is really helpful too is live job postings, people who are currently looking for this. So even if you're not ready to graduate, you can click on a live job posting and look and see what kind of verbs are they using, who is using this. This one isn't very detailed. But you can look and see, how are they describing, there we go, this is a good one, job description, like what kind of verbiage are they using? What do you need to know? And then cater your resume to look very similar to that. So that is what this section is talking about, is just knowing what's out there, knowing the information. So that's really helpful for people, I think, at any level. Even if you already know what you're doing, visiting one of those sites I just showed and just investigating a little bit more, knowing the job outlook, the employment projection, all of those things. And then also just thinking about what things might affect your choice. If you're at that stage where you're not sure what you're doing, what things you have to consider. Finances, you're going to have to move. Do you have family, or any kind of those kind of connections? All of those things play a factor in your career exploration decisions. And then what do you do from here? So one of the things that I always tell students is, if you're not sure, go to Career Services. Go to our office on our campus or visit them online and get some information from them. So a real quick reference, our homepage down at the bottom, Career Services right here, and you can look and see all the services they have. There's a general email address right there, or they're on the Gateway Center floor of M104. Here are some contact information, and then here's a lot of things going on with Career Services and like shopping, % off of professional clothing. There's career fairs coming up, so lots of information there. Again, even if you're not ready to graduate, you can start getting your resume ready. You can start practicing interviews. You can attend job fairs to start getting that experience. So that is all part of making sure that you're doing these next steps, talking to your advisor, making those connections. Okay? So also part of choosing your career then is also obviously like lining up what major goes along with that. So making sure that you're selecting the major that is going to best fit you, make sure that it's something you have a passion for. You're choosing that major not because of potential only salary. That's not what your big basis should be. It's an important factor for sure, but it's not the only factor you should be thinking of. Talk to people in the field, talk to people you trust, see what kind of options you might have. And then if you need to change your major, that's okay. That's what the first couple of semesters are for, to get a lot of your prereqs out of the way, because they're going to transfer no matter what career you go into at that level. So a lot of your 100 level courses at first, your psychology, your cultural diversity, your student success courses, all of those courses, if you change your major, they're probably going to be on that program plan, and you're going to be able to kind of transfer them. If you stay at the same college, but you change your major, they're going to go with you. All right. So also part of this career exploration is knowing, are you going to have to go anywhere after you leave Stark State? Do you need to have a 4-year degree as well? And so if you're going to transfer, that's something you can start talking to your advisor about right now. So you can talk and say, hey, this is what I want to go into. What programs do we have articulation agreements with? Articulation agreements mean there are certain colleges around the state that our credits transfer very nice and smoothly to, and you can build on your 2-year degree to your 4-year degree right there. So, how can I go to Kent State, or how can I go to Ohio State smoothly? Talking to your advisor early on is really helpful. Part of that is knowing the kind of transferable skills that you're going to have. And this is important for everyone. So transferable skills are just what they sound like. Transfer from career to career. Your technical skills are those things that you need to know to be a nurse, to be in the IT field, to be in the business field. However, transferable skills, or sometimes called like non-technical or soft skills, are all of these things that it does not matter what field you're in, they are helpful regardless. You need to do well with problem solving, with communication, with creative thinking, with working with other people, whatever that might be. It's going to be helpful no matter what field you're in. And so it's kind of taking a look at this, and this is not expansive by any means. There are literally hundreds of transferable skills, but kind of knowing some of the most common ones, like time management, work ethic, working with others, attitude, flexibility. What do you do well, and what can you work on? Are there areas that you could stand to kind of buffer up? So looking for, maybe opportunities in workshop form, or maybe there's a class on it, or maybe you just look for opportunities in your daily life to kind of brush up on those skills. Other things our chapter talks about is, hey, like, yeah, you might not be ready to get into your field quite yet, but you can dip your toe in. Maybe you can volunteer somewhere that's kind of connected to your field. Maybe you can get an internship. You can try to do a co-op. You can do a job shadow. You can do a job-focused interview, work part-time. So this whole section talks about those different ways that can start to get you a little bit ready for your field and build your resume without going full-blown into the career. So this section talks about, again, career development, thinking about how to further go in your career. And that's why I say, like, career services, a great place to reference for this career development piece. And so this is going to give you kind of tips on how to do that. And we're winding down now. The power of networking. Networking is, have you ever heard that phrase? It's not what you know, it's who you know. And that's true. I mean, what you know is definitely important because that's going to, you know, sustain your job, right? What you know, your skills, both technical and non-technical, but sometimes who you know opens the door. So that's why it's important to network. So attending job fairs, making connections with advisors and instructors on your campus, joining a student club that's associated with your major. All of those ways are networking and getting to know people who might offer you opportunities to, you know, hey, I know of this company and they're looking for someone. I'm going to make a phone call for you. You know, those kind of things, just seeing if they can help you open some doors a little bit quicker because you know those contacts. And so this section talks about the importance of networking, how to network, what to do in a networking situation, you know, be confident, have like an elevator speech prepared. Like if you're at a job fair, having an elevator speech is really helpful. An elevator speech is like a 30-second spiel about yourself, who you are, your experience, your education, where you want to go, so that you don't have to sit there when someone says, hey, tell me about yourself. And you're like, oh my gosh, what do I say? You already have something planned. That's really helpful in an interview situation as well, because they usually start the first, you know, tell me about yourself. So having that ready to go is helpful. So this whole section talks more about networking. And I do want to say that social networking is not the same as job networking, although they can definitely overlap. You can use social networks to help you network depending on your field, right? So if you're an aspiring photographer, I would hope you are using Instagram or something like that to really market your photography. You might use different social media to advertise your specific, you know, skill. So there are ways to use social media to network, but when we say networking, we're not just talking about social networks. So just kind of making sure we're on the same page there. All right, then we're getting closer to maybe where some of you are in your career path. You've already have a major chosen, you've done a lot of background work, you're in the right field, you've developed your career. Maybe you need to get your resume kind of cleaned up. So this whole section goes about some resume tips. Some things you need to do to make sure your resume is ready, always keeping it up to date, knowing the type of resume, because there are different types of resumes, having someone else look at your resume to make sure that it is using the correct verbiage and language, you know, checking, again, these job sites that we talked about to see what verbs are they using so that you know how to include those verbs on your resume, going to career services and checking out their resume assistants or making an appointment or having someone look at your resume, look at the verb choices, all of these things to make sure that your resume and cover letter, possibly, not every company asks for a cover letter, but making sure those things are ready to go, because that's the first impression, is that resume. And then finally, interviewing, things you want to do to make sure that your interview is successful. So there are different types of interviews. This whole section talks about the different kinds of interviews, how you prepare for an interview, ways to make sure that it is going to go the best possible for you. There's like a little interview study guide. We also have some interview assistance that kind of goes with this, like interview practice right here on Career Services website. We have something called Big Interview where you can do like mock interviews with yourself, or you can have someone watch your mock interview and give you feedback. So it's a nice way, if you know you get really nervous during interviews, to practice for one ahead of time. So this goes through all these different interview tips, as well as what to do leading up to, including the way you dress, and then during the interview, how to make sure that your interview is successful, and then what to do after. All right, that is your chapter 12 lecture. Bye.